Good Wednesday morning, everybody. How's it going? We're close. We are very, very close. The kickoff game is tomorrow. Seahawks game only a few days behind. We're almost there. We are almost to meaningful football games, and I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever this season is going to bring because no matter what, with really no middle ground, this season's going to be huge. Either the Seahawks get over the hump and make a deep playoff run and make us happy and make us proud, or they don't, and then this offseason we'll likely see some things getting blown up. So either way, this season carries a lot of weight. And as I've laid out in the last two morning videos, I want to have as much content as possible this year to really keep track of the most important things. Monday, snap counts. I think that's pretty obvious, and I think it's pretty obvious why snap counts are really important for an NFL team. Monitoring who's playing how much and controlling everyone's snap count. Yesterday, we did recent front office decisions. You take a look at the players you kept and players you acquired in the most recent offseason, and you judge how the front office is doing based off those most recent data points. That's pretty self-explanatory as well, I think. So Wednesday morning is going to be all about one man. Well, that's not totally fair, but it's going to be focused on one man, and that is Russell Wilson. But it's not just about Russell Wilson, it's also about how Russell Wilson is enabled to play by Shane Waldron and Pete Carroll. So, what Wilson does this year is hugely impactful on the future of this team for many reasons. For one, the way your quarterback plays determines a huge portion of whether or not your team is going to be any good. The best quarterbacks typically win, and the quarterbacks who are not the best don't win nearly as often. This is definitely a season that could be Wilson's last in Seattle if things don't go well. It's at least on the table. I think we all suspect that. And we're implementing a new offense, and Wilson's going to have to pick it up kind of on the fly and make it work within the first few months of being in it if we're going to have success this year. So a lot rides on Wilson, and I want to keep track of how he's playing. But that's not enough. And I could sit here on Wednesday every week and tell you guys, oh, Wilson threw for 295 yards and he threw for 69 touchdowns and 420 pass attempts, and that's good because if you look at... No, I'm not going to do that. Any fool with an internet connection can look that stuff up. You don't even need an internet connection. Just turn on the TV. You will probably see this box score scroll by on ESPN or NFL Network at some point. I'm not going to do that. That's boring. Whether or not Wilson is playing well is going to be pretty evident from post-game videos that I do. And honestly, you don't even need me to tell you if Wilson is playing well. If you watch the games, you'll be able to tell. That's part of the equation. What I'm more interested in with this series is how is Russell Wilson playing and how does it contrast to the last 3 years under Schottenheimer. So we bring in Waldron, and we know we're going to do things differently. We don't know how differently, we don't know exactly what we're going to do, but we have some ideas. And I want to look at some advanced metrics to determine whether or not Wilson's game is changing. And we can combine that knowledge with his actual level of performance to see if the change is for the better and if the change is something that he is adapting to. So we have a lot of categories here that we're going to look at as the season goes on. Some of them are pretty clear, but I want to define a few of these terms. So we have numbers in most of these categories for the last 3 seasons as well, which will be good for comparison's sake. But let's take a look here. So air yards per pass attempt. Air yards per pass attempt is defined here by Pro Football Reference as average depth of target, whether completed or not. So if Wilson throws 2 passes at the start of the season, and the first one is complete, and the receiver catches it 8 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, then the air yards is 8. And if on the second throw Wilson throws the ball 30 yards down the field and it's incomplete, it's still 30 air yards. So 30 plus 8 divided by 2 is 19. So that would be 19 air yards per pass attempt. And then you also have air yards per pass completion, which is the same thing, except it's per completion. Yards the ball traveled in the air past the line of scrimmage prior to a completion. The last 3 years, his air yards have been 9, 9.4, 8.6, and complete per completion was 7.47 and 6.2. So you would expect that number to possibly go down this year because we're implementing a new offense that is supposed to be more around shorter passes and a quicker passing game. But will it? That's kind of what I want to keep track of here. Air yards is the big one for me because that's going to go a long way in telling us how much Wilson's game is changing. And we don't want it to change too much because we know Wilson's strength as a quarterback is his ability to throw deep, but we also know that you can't just live off of that. If you just try to live off of that, you get what you got last year when teams just would go into cover 2 and we didn't have a counter. We also have yards after the catch per pass completion. The last 3 years, it's been about 5, 4.9 in 2018, 5, and then 4.8. This is a number that you would kind of expect to go up. And this is pretty self-explanatory as well. Pass yards after catch per completion. So if you throw the ball to Lockett and he catches it 10 yards past the line of scrimmage, and then he runs for 10 more yards, then yards after the catch for that completion would be 10. So you would kind of expect this number to go up because the new offense is supposed to be based around yards after the catch, but will it? And we have some other metrics here that some of these are going to be a little subjective, I think, but PFR does a pretty good job of keeping track of this, so I'm willing to put my faith in them for this video series. Bad throws. What is a bad throw? I believe it's a throw that misses the intended target by more than 2 yards is the technical definition. It's something like that. It might be a little more or a little yet less than 2 yards, but it's defined as a throw that is just considered to be bad. And as you can see, Wilson had 61 in 2018, 91 in 2019, and 84 in 2020. Does that number go down? Because a new offense is all well and good, and I do think the Waldron offense will objectively be better than the Schottenheimer offense. But at the end of the day, if Wilson's bad throws go up this year, then either the system isn't good or Wilson is not good at executing it. So we need to keep track of how he's actually doing by a concrete stat like bad throws. And we also have bad throw percentage, which is important because how many times he throws is going to have an impact here. 2018, 15.4% of his throws were bad. 2019, 18.5%, and last year, 15.8%. You would hope that number goes down this year. On-target throws, so this is kind of the inverse of bad throws. He had 376 in 2019 and 424 in 2020. 76% of his throws were on target in 2019, and almost 80% of them were on target in 2020. So those are kind of the accuracy numbers, and we'll probably be able to get a pretty good idea of how accurate he is just based off his completion percentage. But this tries to drill down a little deeper. This tries to kind of get rid of the drops, get rid of the plays where the receiver just didn't fight for the ball. This is actually trying to say, did the quarterback throw a good pass or a bad pass, regardless of outcome? And I'm big on stats like that because it's so easy to just assume the throw was good if it was completed and assume the throw was bad if it was incomplete. I like to look at process, not just result. We also have some numbers here in terms of how much is Wilson getting hit? How much is the pass rush affecting him? And this is really important. I think we all know why. I don't think I need to explain why. Pocket time. So this is an interesting stat that PFR collects. Pocket time is average time the quarterback had in the pocket between the snap and throwing the ball or pressure collapses the pocket. So either he throws the ball or the pocket gets destroyed by pressure. Last 3 years, it's been basically 2.5 seconds. Last year, it was 2.6. So theoretically, if the Waldron offense is what we've been told, this number should go down a few tenths of a second. Probably not hugely significant, but if we saw this number go down to 2.2. That would be a pretty strong indication that things are changing. How many times Wilson gets sacked? This one's going to be pretty clear. This is a widely kept stat that I think everybody keeps track of. He was sacked 51 times in 2018, 48 times in 2019, 47 in 2020. You would expect that number to go down fairly significantly this year in a new offense. Hurried. How many times was he hurried? This is another number that actually went down as the years have gone by, kind of interestingly. 82 times was he hurried in 2018, 71 in 2019, 65 in 2020. If you take a look at the definition of hurried, I know this one's a little subjective when a QB is hurried. There are definitely instances where one website looks at a play and says, oh, the quarterback got hurried on that play, and another website might say, no, that doesn't qualify as a hurry. I do understand we're treading into the waters of subjective stats, but I think this stuff is still valuable, and I'm going to be using PFR this year for it. I also have times hit. 2018, he was hit 31 times. 2019, he was hit 57. Last year, he was hit 67. So that was a number that was on the rise with each passing year. And it got to the point last year where even though he was getting sacked a little bit less than he was used to, he was still getting clobbered a lot. And his total pressure number was climbing with each year. Now, I will say this. Part of the reason why is he was throwing the ball more. 2018, he was pressured on 32% of his snaps, or dropbacks. 2019, it was 29%, and last year it was 27%. So we were seeing improvement with each year under Schottenheimer, but the improvement needs to continue under Waldron, or else we're not getting what we were advertised. So you would expect all these numbers to go down, or at the very least, they collectively go down at the end of the season. Finally, we have scrambles, just basically how many times a planned pass play went awry and ended up turning into a QB run. So basically, anytime where Wilson drops back to pass and ends up running for a positive or negative gain is considered a scramble. And scrambling is something he's done more of with each passing year under Schottenheimer. He only did it 30 times in 2018, 45 in 2019, 53 in 2020. I think the Waldron offense should be designed to reduce the number of scrambles. So this number should go down from 2020 at least. Final thing I want to look at here is play action pass attempts. So pass attempts on play action plays, this is pretty obvious. Any play where the quarterback fakes a handoff and throws the ball, that's a play action attempt. And I'm a big believer in play action. I believe that it makes 90% of your plays better. And if I were a coordinator, I would be spamming play action constantly. Now, there's obviously a point of diminishing returns, but I do believe that running play action as much as humanly possible is a positive thing for an offense. So I want to see this number from last year, 123, go through the roof. Play action 200 times this year. Do it 300 times. Do it until it stops working. It's just common sense that it would be good, right? That's how I see it. So that's going to be Wednesday on this channel. We're going to keep track of how Wilson is playing with these numbers. Now, these numbers take a little while to get out sometimes. It can take a couple of days. So possibly you won't see these videos Wednesday morning. It might be a Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday evening thing. It depends on when I get access to these numbers, because I don't keep track of these manually. What do I look like? Do I look like a Rain Man over here with a stopwatch in my hand? No. I'm going to have to wait for these numbers to actually get released. But once they do, I will report them here and we'll discuss them and try to determine whether or not Wilson is actually changing the way he plays the game, and whether or not that is working for him as well. We'll tie that into his actual overall performance and whether or not we're winning games. And that's what you can look forward to on this channel on Wednesdays after games. I'm going to go and get out of here. Peace out. Go Hawks. See you guys later today. We'll see if something big happens.